Clifford Chance has had a presence in Africa for the past 40 or so years. The firm advises on numerous transactions from private equity to mergers and acquisitions and project financing. In the past 18 months alone, the firm has advised over 400 transactions spanning 45 countries in Africa. The Clifford Chance group the Africa group within Clifford Chance has dedicated lawyers that are committed to providing legal service across the African jurisdiction. Africa is also important to the firm from a pro bono perspective. The firm has numerous pro bono initiatives available to African lawyers and the African continent more generally, one of which is the flagship pro bono program that Clifford Chance has set up earlier this year. That program sees Clifford Chance providing financial and legal support to a specific African city. The most recent African city that was selected is Kigali in Rwanda, and going forward, it is likely that this will be continued and meted out in different African cities.
So what is really powerful at the moment is the sort of range of interest and issues we see in Africa across our whole client range. So that can be from, say, private equity clients looking at investment into Africa. That can be sort of brokerage and banking platforms looking to sort of access sort of African clients. It can also be African sort of clients and corporates actually looking to invest out of the continent and sort of elsewhere into the world. And when you take all of that together, some of it's quite sort of traditional regulatory topics, things that we're all familiar with, and actually some of it can be quite new topics or sort of new issues that you don't naturally tend to think about. So what we try to do in the guide is actually introduce some of those topics and what are the key things you need to think about when looking at certain African jurisdictions, but also try and make the jurisdictions just a bit more familiar as well. So when you look at sort of each country entry, we are picking up things like, well, who is the regulator? And what do they regulate? Is that just sort of securities, or is that banking as well? Is it insurance? Who are the main exchanges, and sort of what exchange type rules do they have? But then moving on to things like, well, sort of currency controls, which of course can be a huge issue from some jurisdictions' perspective, whether you're putting money into the country or trying to take money out of the country. Change control type issues, so if you're doing any sort of investments into sort of African regulated entities, and foreign investment full stop. How do these jurisdictions actually approach sort of foreign ownership? All sort of key topics that really need to be thought about. And at the end, what we do in the guide is also introduce you to our sort of network across Africa. All those sort of key counsel we're working with who have this sort of expertise, the sort of technical knowledge to help you on all of these issues.